I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. She first saw gymnastics when she was a child in a small rec center in Detroit. As a teen, Wendy Hilliard became the first African American to compete internationally with the U.S. national team for rhythmic gymnastics. She quickly became a major force in women's sports and a tireless advocate for her sport. And now, as the leader of the Wendy Hilliard Foundation, she's bringing free or very low-cost gymnastics training to over 15,000 inner-city youths in New York City. She's my guest today. Your career has really been stunning.
Oh, thank you.
How old were you when your mother took you to the rec center?
You know, that's a good question because I was at a Y as well. I was somewhere around 12 years old or so.
And you just, did you join right away you didn't go right into rhythmic?
I didn't.
So you're going to have to explain the difference to us.
So I started out as a tumbler. So that's what everyone says, people doing flips and backflips, because that was the only thing that was in the city of Detroit. It was at the Y. I had a teacher, Dr. Julius Lee. It was very funny. Facebook, they just put out a photo of it. And then from there, I went to what they call artistic gymnastics, which is the bars and the beam, the very popular sport, Mary Lou Retton and Gabby Douglas. I started that, and then when the Detroit Recreation Department hired 4 coaches from the former Soviet Union, they were really from Ukraine, all of a sudden the main coach was a rhythmic gymnastics specialist, and rhythmic was just becoming an Olympic sport in '84. So that's when I started rhythmic gymnastics.
So what is it?
Rhythmic gymnastics is the sport where you use hand apparatus. So the key is all gymnastics is movement on or with apparatus. So in artistic gymnastics, you work on the balance beam or on the uneven bars or on a trampoline. In rhythmic, you work with apparatus, which is a ball or a ribbon. You do the routines on the floor exercise, and they're all done to music.
But in the Olympics, when you watch it, there's also doing the routine on the mat, but not with the stuff, right?
Exactly,
So
yes.
they're two different.
There are. So that's the floor exercise in artistic gymnastics when they're doing more tumbling. Mm-hmm. Rhythmic gymnastics, you can be a single person with a ribbon, or you can be in a group exercise, which is now with 5 in the Olympic Games. Mm-hmm. So it's a group exercise.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Oh, that must be beautiful.
It is.
So then you competed all over. What's it like? I've always wondered, what's it like to compete? Are you very nervous before you go on?
That's what all the practice is for. I mean, you do get nervous, but sports, especially gymnastics, we do a lot of hours. We do a lot of repetitions because you only get one chance to do it. When you get on the mat, there are no do-overs. You can't get another basket. So you do get somewhat nervous, but the higher level you are, you learn to contain. It's all part of the process, learning that you have to do it right at that time. You get somewhat nervous, but if you're well-trained, your body takes over. That's what happens.
Is it like making a speech? I mean, the same kind of tension and stuff that goes on?
It is a little bit, but because our routines are so short, I mean, your speech, you might be able to go off a little bit and come back.
You just automatically
do. That music hits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what was it like the first time you did an international competition?
Exciting. Very exciting, because the one great thing about international competition is that everyone's in the same boat, right? There are definitely athletes that are better, let's say, have more higher level, world champions, things like that. But what happens, you find out that everybody's in the same boat. You all have the same kind of practice time. Everybody's traveled a long way to get there. And it's a really wonderful friendship that you get when you do international. So it was very exciting because you're representing your country, but you learn to get it right and you just go home and practice more.
And you meet other people.
You do. That was the
thing.
great thing. Yes.
You see them year after year.
You do. Uh-huh. Yes, I became very good friends. And then when the walls came down, as they say, because when I was competing, it was the early 80s, and I would travel to Bulgaria. The best in the world were the Russians, the Bulgarians. Mm-hmm. I spent time training and traveling over there. And so they became very good friends. And it was eye-opening to how their life was at the time. But for me, they were the best in the world. So I would go over there and learn to.
Isn't that amazing?
It was really exciting.
Did your mother go with you?
Sometimes, not all the time. She did do a few trips. They went to Russia once. She went to Germany with me once. It was more just to kind of experience it, as I was on the national team over 10 years, so I did a lot of traveling.
Did she get more nervous than you?
Parents always do. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Because you can't control it.
Right.
The coaches are a little bit closer, and once you step on the mat, and I realized that when I became a coach, and now I'm a parent, it is very, very nerve-wracking to watch.
Yeah. So what was your next step when you left the team?
Well, when I left the team, I went on to become a coach. I moved to New York. I finished at NYU, so I was in Detroit, and I made the thing because I kind of wanted to perform as well, and so I moved to New York City, worked like a dog to survive in Manhattan and also to compete. So I finished at NYU, but then I became a coach at the United Nations School. Rhythmic isn't a real popular sport, and it wasn't back in the day. I spent a lot of time promoting the sport. So then I became a coach, and one of my athletes, Aliane Baccarat, made the Olympic team in 1996.
So you went with her?
I did.
And you were nervous?
Very nervous, very nervous. My favorite story, she was on the group routine, so she actually left about a year before to train with the group. But we were just constantly in communication. It was really interesting because I know that she could take that road. It was not easy, but my proudest moment was watching her walk in the opening ceremonies. It just tears to my eyes. It's so magnificent. So
are you a dancer also?
I would say so. Studying ballet is critical in rhythmic gymnastics. Every rhythmic gymnast does ballet. And so I studied, when I moved to New York, I studied with Maggie Black, who's a really highly regarded ballet teacher, and a lot of the people in my class were in the ballet companies. It was really interesting. And then I went on and I did Broadway. One of my board members, Christopher Harrison, started Anti-Gravity, because a lot of gymnasts would come to New York to perform. So we started our own gymnastics company, and I was in the second production of Candide on Broadway.
That's great.
Yes.
And you also choreograph.
Yes, I do a lot of choreography. So what happens after the Olympic, especially after Mary Lou won, they would do a tour of the Olympic team because around America, so you could see them. So we had these tours, and I was a performer first on the tour, and then as we went along, I became a choreographer. I did some television commentating. I was always having to explain what rhythmic gymnastics was. So after a while, I was hired for TV to explain it, but I did that in gymnastics. And so yeah, it's a very big mix of, gymnastics is an art form as well as a sport. It's a performance sport. So there's always that element to it, and being in New York was a really happy combination of all of my skills.
And you became a spokesperson basically for women in sports. I mean, when I went to high school or grade school or something, nobody ever pushed me to join anything. I was a swimmer. That I learned at camp.
Great.
And I see my grandchildren and even my children, the participation in sports became so important to them. What is it that it does for young women?
Oh, everything, just like it does for everyone. Sports, especially for women, I will say this. So in 1995, I became president of the Women's Sports Foundation, and it was a really important time. It was right before, 1996 was big. The women won the World Cup the year before, and then they won the Olympic gold, and the women's basketball won gold. Everybody was winning gold, and all the women in 1996. But what sports does for girls is it gives you confidence. It gives you confidence. It lets you learn about your body. It also makes you work with teamwork. All the skills that everyone talks about, that you want to be able to be fair, really speak up for yourself, protect yourself. It's so important for girls because there's so many other pressures out there that may, take their energy away from them being successful. But I even see it, the girls, we have the teen girls, and they're my favorites because they're little divas, right? When you become a teenage girl, they have certain challenges, but the girls that come to my program, they're very proud in their talent. They're very proud of their fitness, and they understand they're protective of their bodies. But girls that participate in sports do better in school. They stay away from drugs. There's less likely of unwanted pregnancy. The statistics go on and on.
Amazing. So tell me about the foundation. You started that when, in 1996?
1996.
Yeah. And then tell me about it. How did you start?
Well, after I sent Aliane to the Olympics, I realized as a coach I could only maybe coach 10 or 15 girls at most. And I really wanted to go back to my roots because when I trained in gymnastics, it was almost free. It was in the recreation department. We were training with boxers, and the cost wasn't the aspect of it. And so also there weren't really any more blacks on the national team. I had retired like 6 or 8 years earlier. And so I wanted to go back to grassroots. So I started it, I was finishing as the president of the Women's Sports Foundation, so I was in all of these stats about how girls needed to do more sports. And I thought I should do that through my own sport. So Dr. Alf Alexander, who was on the Olympic Committee at the time, noticed that they had a grant for emerging sports, and rhythmic was one of those. So I got a grant from the Olympic Committee. We also went out and we partnered with the Department of Youth and Development here in New York City. And You know, sometimes, and when I think about it, I don't know what I was thinking, but I knew how to write. Thank you, NYU and Wayne State University. And I really had a passion for giving back to kids, to give them the opportunity because it was so expensive. And it's been a joy since. It's been a lot of hard work, but we've served a lot of kids, and gymnastics is still very popular, and it's a great foundational sport like swimming. You know, kids should learn how to swim. Kids should learn how to do gymnastics as well.
So tell me, so it started with how many children?
We started with maybe about 45 or so. We had a rhythmic team. We were on the Upper West Side.
And anybody who wanted to come could come?
Pretty much. You know, we had grants. So the grant was really to, and I understood programming. When you do your own thing, it's really challenging. You have to have a lot of partnerships. And so we had about 45 kids, and we started with maybe 2 or 3 classes a week, and then we had a gymnastics team.
And was it all rhythmic or just...
We started with rhythmic gymnastics, but then we also started Mommy and Me classes and artistic gymnastics because my background had a lot of different gymnastics. I also wanted to have that for the other kids.
And did people have to take a test to come to...
No, you basically, you know, you can come and start a beginner class. If you want to do a team gymnastics or more advanced gymnastics, is more the dedication. That's the main thing. If you have the passion, it's a big commitment. It takes a lot of work. Gymnastics is not easy. It's fun, but it's very challenging. So if the kids really, as I tell all parents, if your kid really wants to do it, then they can try out for a team.
But now, that was how many people that you started with?
About 45.
45. Now you've got...
Now we serve over 1,000 every year. We've learned how to really bring it to larger numbers. Gymnastics is not usually done that way, but we started a summer program. We used to go up to the track armory up in 168th Street, and we would do summer programs. Our first summer, we had a partnership with the Department of Homeless Services. We had 750 kids. I was calling all my friends who was a gymnast. You got to come coach for me. But it seems that all the coaches really want to be in this environment where it's really special for the kids to do gymnastics. The one thing that we offer, to make it free and low cost and really just make it accessible to everyone, they appreciate it a lot, both the kids and the parents.
So it operates every day of the week?
Almost. So we're basically, our team is there 3 days a week. We operate about 6 days a week. We do have one day off. We take a Sunday off. But we have what we call our community program, which we host at Riverbank State Park now every Saturday. So that's ages 3 through 17, and they come in for beginner gymnastics once a week. And then as they get more...
Yes. So that whole age range comes in for beginning?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Beginner. You know, we start our preschool 3 to 4-year-olds, and it's really cute, and it
must
sometimes
be adorable.
It's adorable, very challenging, and this is the key, which is interesting. At my programs, the parents have to wait outside. This is a new, I was trained that way because we want the kids to focus. That's the main thing. Parents, sometimes it's more separation for the parents.
Yeah.
Kids are happy to run into gymnastics. Right. And then after you take that class, you can move up to our pre-team, and that is like 3 hours on a Saturday. We have a partnership with Harlem Children's Zone, and so our team practices at the Armory on 143rd Street.
So you're different locations on Saturday?
We are different locations on Saturday. From Saturday, yes.
And then what age do you age out?
Well, you don't really. I mean, most of our kids stay up through high school, and hopefully they're off to college and doing their own thing, which is great. But we do have some kids that are a little bit older. In some sports, you can compete in their 20s, especially tumbling and trampoline. Our thing is, if you're staying with us, we will support you all the way. I competed well into my 20s, so some kids can do that. But I think our average age is probably, kids tend to start between 7 and 10, 11, and then they stay with us oftentimes through high school.
Now, during the week, so on Saturdays, you've got these 2 programs going?
We do.
And during the week?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're at the Harlem Armory, and we do exposure classes.
Which is what?
It means the introduction to gymnastics. A lot of the kids from the Harlem Children's Zone and their partners come in to try gymnastics. It's a big, beautiful space.
They do the beam and everything?
They do the beam, they do the trampoline. They come once a week and they do that. And then we have our competitive team. So they practice Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 4:30 to 7:30. So they're dedicated athletes, and they're tumbling, trampoline, rhythmic gymnastics, girls artistic. Those kids have chosen to dedicate themselves to gymnastics.
And that's also at the Armory?
That's also at the Harlem Armory. We have an after-school program we do at the Hamilton Heights School. So the kids do the after-school program, and I send a couple of my teachers there every week to teach them some tumbling moves. And then Saturday is our big day where we start with our Mommy and Me, very cute, 18 months to 36 months with the parent and me gymnastics. And then Monday and Wednesday nights we also have adult fitness classes, which is great. You do, you know, you learn your fitness through people that want to try in the Harlem community get to try gymnastics. A lot of adults never did, and they want to do it for fitness.
And is it all by word of mouth that people hear about you, or is it through schools and other things? Now
it's word of mouth. We've been around a long time. We have our great information on our website. We do our flyers. We do our email outreach. But mainly it's word of mouth. I mean, we have a waiting list for our community program, over 100 kids. I mean, we just get calls all the time of parents who want to find something. And parents are the best ones. They tell their friends about our organization.
What kind of budget do you have?
Well, our overall budget's about $450,000, and it's growing. And so the budget that we have for the kids, I mean, for us to take a class with, let's say, you know, $70 a month. Now, if you were going to a private place in Manhattan, it would be $35 a class, right? So it's what we do is we get a lot of our partners, a lot of our grants, city council, they support what we do, so we're able to subsidize the class. We also give scholarships. Many that are right there in Harlem, and then we also raise our own money. So the idea is, if you come to us, we have a lot of siblings, because that's a challenge in New York. If you have more than one child, one can take this and one can't. So we have a lot of siblings. We make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to do gymnastics, and I spend all of my time raising my money because the quality is key. I invest in my teachers. It's a safety issue, but also they're the ones that are working directly with the children, and I work very hard to make sure we have the best staff available.
So are any of the staff former gymnastic students?
Most
a lot of them?
Most of them are former former, almost all of them.
What did they do otherwise?
Some of them, this is what they do. A lot of them, you know, there's a whole community of folks that do after school. With me, often they're up 30 hours a week doing gymnastics, and this is what their livelihood is. Most of them are relatively young. Sometimes you start gymnastics young, you start coaching young. Yeah. We also have an internship program, so all of our teens learn how to teach gymnastics. They get certified on safety through USA Gymnastics. And so what happens is that most of them use this as their full-time job, but a lot of them are performers. Oftentimes I'm traveling over here to perform with this. We have a couple of our guys they perform with the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, right? All those flippers and things like that, they came through my program. It's also, you know, a way to, you know, commercials, things like that. A lot of them do that on the side.
And you have boys and girls?
We have boys and girls, yes, we do.
Evenly or more girls?
No, we have more girls. I would say there's probably 70% girls. Oftentimes in our smaller class, it's more even, the preschool class. But what often happens is boys have a lot more opportunity to do a lot of other sports, and parents still sometimes push their boys more than they push their girls. So they still do, unfortunately. And we're in a very interesting time, but gymnastics is great. It's an individual sport. And we found out that what we do best is really give the kids discipline and work ethic. I mean, we're teaching them the best quality gymnastics. That's kind of what I want to do. I was trained by very highly qualified coaches, and I passed that down, and that's the key. But it's the work ethic that you have to develop that you'll use later in life.
Do they understand the skills that they're learning?
They do. They have to. You know, the thing about gymnastics is it's progressive, right? You have to, before you can do a back handspring, you have to do a round off, and then you have to do a cartwheel, and you have to do a handstand. My kids are so conditioned. We call it conditioning, like they know it's part of their practice, but they're doing their push-ups and their sit-ups. They know that they have to have this type of strength to do gymnastics, and that's what's great. You kind of hide the physical fitness aspect because you have a love of your sport. And so, yeah, they understand that.
And did they understand their learning focus and their learning team spirits and they're learning all of these things? Do you ever talk about the experience that they're going through?
We do. As you learn to do competitions, we have to teach them, you know, this score may not be what you want it to be, but next time it might be a little bit higher, but this is life, because sometimes you're judged fairly and sometimes you're not. But you just have to give your best. We're constantly, because it's an individual sport, you know, each person has to develop what their skill set is, but they have to be a team. Yeah. And they have to realize that they need to cheer on their teammates and they have to support their teammates. We do a lot of talking, and they start getting it after a couple of years.
Do you get a special joy when you see somebody exceedingly talented?
I do. I get more of a joy when I see someone who's worked really hard be successful in their routine. Parents always ask me, it's great to have talent, but I can't do anything if you don't want to work hard.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody who really wants to work hard and just loves gymnastics, we will make them better, and we can do that one. The talent is really interesting. You never know. Gymnastics is a long... it takes 8 to 10 years to become an elite athlete. And so that's a long time when other things come up in your life. So as I tell parents, any parent, if you want to do good in sports, make sure your kid has a passion for it.
Yeah.
It may be your passion, but you're not out there doing it.
It's not theirs. You can't do it.
Doing those repetitions.
So what's the team like? How many people are on the team?
We have 50 kids on the team, boys and girls. And we have 3 different teams, we call them. The rhythmic, which is mine with the ribbons. Girls artistic, which is the Gabby Douglas with the bars on the beam. And then our T&T team, which they do tumbling and trampoline. And double mini, I will say.
What's a double mini?
Double mini is when you run, it's like a mini trampoline. You run and then you do a trick and you jump and then you do flips off of it. It's really, it's really fun. A lot of kids, it's a kind of sport for kids that want to focus on that. The other 2, rhythmic and artistic, take a little bit more training time because you have 4 events. But the kids, I'm so proud of my team kids. I mean, those are the ones that are with us a lot. We make the most difference on their life. They make the most difference on our lives. I got an email from one mother from one of my teens. And she's been with me for at least 3 years, if not 4 years. And she teaches for me on Saturdays, but I had never met her mother. And her mother randomly sent me an email 2 weeks ago saying, "Thank you so much. She always stays with the team. She loves what she does. I know where she is." And it just touched me that this child decided to be with us, and the mother does realize what we do for the kids.
That's an exciting thing when you know they've really gotten to the core. Does the team travel?
They do, yes.
Where do they travel? And who
Mainly we travel in the tri-state area. We do host our own competition. It's called the Harlem Gymnastics Invitational. We take over the Armory for 2 full days. This year we had over 750 athletes that came from the tri-state area and as far as Florida to compete for us. But we do travel because most of the gymnastics meets take care in New Jersey or Long Island. The kids will be going to West Virginia this year. We qualified a couple for nationals last year.
But that's expensive.
It is.
Do you fundraise for different activities?
I do. Yeah. Everything kind of fits in. I think people need to understand we need the whole pipeline. We need to have those kids that want to be introduced. They may stay in gymnastics for 2 and 3 years, but we have to support those that dedicate themselves. So a lot of the funding goes across the board because we have a big summer camp where we pick a lot of our kids, which is really nice because we're there from 10 to 4. In 6 hours of gymnastics, you find out your kid likes to do it.
And how?
But yes.
And who competes? I mean, what other teams? What are they like?
The other
do they
teams
come from rec centers or independent schools?
Mostly in gymnastics, especially, there are gymnastics clubs. They're private clubs. And they're supported. The parents pay the entry fees. The parents. I mean, an average team member.
Some of them are really the $35.
Oh yes, yes.
Class.
Yeah, and New York is expensive. Space is very expensive. Everything's expensive. Yeah. But gymnastics is exceedingly expensive, and even outside gymnastics, because of the travel, because of the coaches, because of the leotards. Even we have a wonderful sponsor, GK, gets our kids leotards, and they look. It's so important.
What's GK?
GK is Gymkin. It's elite, and they design leotards. That's what they do. And for our kids, it's a big deal because those leotards are at least $300 a piece. I've got 50 kids, so. But it makes them feel, special.
Them, right?
They love them. They look great. But those kind of costs, gymnastics is expensive, even if you're in New York or you're around. And that's why I'm committed to making sure to raise the funds so that they have the best experience and on an even footing as everyone else. I mean, our parents, when we go to a meet, we usually have to rent a bus. That's another expense. Right. It's a big expense, but I will say that it's so worth the investment. And I'm committed to doing good gymnastics. We are a nonprofit and it may not cost much, but the quality of what we do is important, and you really can't, doing sport and doing it right, no matter what the sport is. You said your grandson does hockey. There's some sports that just cost more than others. But if you're dedicated to it, you deserve to do it the best that you can and have the best coaches and have the best facilities, and that's what we want to do here.
So when you have a team, it's how many people on a team?
Well, we have 50 on our team.
50?
Yeah, so it's almost spread.
So you've got 5 people doing the rhythmic
We have, it probably spreads out. We probably have about 15 on our rhythmic gymnastics team. We have about 22 on our tumbling and trampoline team, and the rest are girls.
So not everybody competes at every meet.
No, not at every meet. So this is why it's so. So we have one team, especially in January, we had teams going everywhere. So the team is going out to New Jersey to do tumbling and trampoline. We have another team that's going to a meet in Long Island to do girls artistic, and then the rhythmic team. So I'm like sending, my staff is just like the organization of
logistics.
The logistics is a lot, and so, but it's great. The kids feel so proud. We also do, besides our summer day camp that we do in Harlem, we have a partnership with the YMCA. So we do a sleepaway camp that's based on gymnastics, and we partner because gymnastics, which is popular, but it's very expensive. But the Y gives scholarships, and this is our second year going into it, and the kids last year had such a great time.
So can people come to your big event up in the Armory?
They can. They can come. The great thing about the Armory is when we do the event, it's free. So the audience can come in and see great gymnastics.
Parents and family.
Parents and family. And that's part of the reason we do that one. When you talk about fundraising, that's our big thing. Our next fundraiser is coming up April 16th. And people need to understand when they are investing in these kids. When you see gymnastics on TV, you're like, oh, it's great. The parents gave up so much. It's like, it's a lot of work. And it's a lot of money. But the kids, you give them a talent. That's what I say when I always talk about my team, because I know when they go out there, they stand tall. They take good direction. They're listening to people. They know how to follow directions. They know how to express themselves. And so we've invested a lot in all of these kids, and it takes support from people. And I think they should feel very proud that they're supporting this kind of investment in children.
And you have a website.
I do.
And everybody can look at it. What is it?
It's WHFNY.org. And
Very
so if you
good.
just go to Wendy Hilliard Gymnastics Foundation, you can look us up.
And your confidence is this, your kids come out with the same confidence and joy about life that you do?
I think so.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you.
It's been great to hear about this.
Thank you.
If there are any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore, please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.